Hello, everybody. Chris Lee and Graham Doty of Southeastern 14 here to react to the baseball college world shaking news that Texas has hired Texas A&M's Jim Schlossnagle. Boy, this is interesting for a ton of reasons, Graham. We'll get into all of those that we can think of, and maybe some will pop up that we can't think of as we're doing this. But first, a reminder, we're brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, the NBA, and NHL playoff stats. All the latest news and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Graham. I think the wheels started turning in everybody's minds, including ours, when Texas, the morning that Texas A&M, its arch rivals, playing for the national championship, announces coaching vacancy. So interesting timing there. That's one of the many things we'll unpack. But just what are your general thoughts on what went down? We're doing this on Wednesday morning. I was tied up with stuff all day, so this is the first chance we've had to react to it here at the channel. But what went through your head over in the events of basically the last 48 hours?
Well, remember Monday night when we were wrapping up the national championship game, I asked, like, what do you think the timeline will be? Like,
Yeah.
how quickly do you think it'll be this week? I did not think that it would be the very next day. I mean, less than 24 hours later, it is officially announced that Schlossnagle takes the Texas job. And then Kendall Rogers drops a
Yeah.
bomb late last night with his tweet. And Kendall is from Texas, went to A&M, so he's dialed into the A&M program. He said the deal was done from the Georgia series in the regular season, which I looked it up. That was in late April. He said the
Yeah.
window was the Georgia series in the regular season, or before, at some point before the NCAA regional for A&M, that the deal was already done. That blew my mind that they've had this deal in the works that long. And it was, there were rumblings and rumors and stuff out there, but I don't think anybody knew that it was done by potentially late April.
Yeah. The underground chatter for a while has been that it was either going to be he or Tony Vitello at Tennessee. There was some talk, I don't know, late Monday that Vitello was the guy they were going after, younger than Schlossnagle, a lot of things there. But, I mean, you just never know unless you know what the AD is thinking. I always thought that was the one that made the most sense. If you could get past everybody's got to deal with this part of it now, that you stole a rival's coach when you stole him. But Jim Schlossnagle and Chris Del Conte were friends, have been friends. They worked together when they were both at TCU. So sometimes relationships transcend everything, and that was part of it. But holy cow. I have to think the league frowned upon the timing of that. I mean, look, that's one thing. If you know, it's worse if it comes out. Well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. The timing was kind of bad enough for the league as a whole. Not great when you got two teams playing for a national title. Could you not wait 24 hours to make that announcement, which you knew you were going to do for a while, to take away from the spotlight of the teams playing? I've heard for a while that is something that generally gets frowned upon. Can't prove it, can't, whatever, but it makes sense. So now with Kendall Rogers' report, I know Kendall. I've known him for a long time. He's a good guy, honest guy. If they had known, and let's backtrack for just to add another layer of interest here, if Jim Schlossnagle had known after that Georgia series, the next two series, remember, they lost to LSU. Nobody saw that one coming.
Then
Lost
they
to Ole
lost
Miss.
at Ole
Nobody
Miss.
saw that coming.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder about distractions and things like that. And God knows if that was a factor in this series. I don't know. In the championship series, I mean, you would think the players will be locked in and want to play for themselves, but you just never know how that affects things. But I think knowing now that this was a done deal a long time ago, the move of making that announcement that, oh, by the way, we fired David Pierce, which they knew they were doing, making that public the morning of game 3, the winner take all game. I don't know, man. I don't think that was, might have been in Texas's best interest.
Right.
Right. This just in, rivals like to, no pun intended, gig their rivals a little bit. But I mean, come on, I don't feel like that was maybe the adult way to handle this. Maybe that's harsh.
Well, Chris, look at this. Orange Bloods, which is, if you want to know what's going on in Texas, there's the place to go. On June the 5th, they released a baseball hot board. Texas officially fired David Pierce on Monday, June 24th. So that's 2-week
Jeff
period.
Ketchum's plugged in over there, and his guys.
So that's a 2-week period where they had the hot board, and number 1 on their hot board, by the way, was Schlossnagle. So
yeah,
I mean that kind of shows you Texas made the decision, and they had it for a while. They just didn't make it public until this Monday, Game 3.
Yeah,
the series between Tennessee and A&M, just absolutely fascinating. It got me thinking, when is the last time, I'm sure it's happened before, but a head coach that has either won or played in the national championship game has left? And I mean, this year alone, we saw football, both of those head coaches gone. Harbaugh to the NFL, and then DeBoer ends up at Alabama. And then a couple of years ago, Chris Beard leaves Texas Tech to go to Texas. That was 2 years after he played for the national championship for Texas Tech. Leaves to go to Austin 2 years later. This is the next day. Schlossnagle leaves to go to Texas. Just absolutely fascinating. And I've already seen all the entire coaching staff from A&M is going with him to Texas. So like nobody is staying in station. Just, I cannot imagine what Texas A&M fans are feeling right now.
Look, in defense of Texas, and I will hit a little bit on the other side of this in a minute. In defense of Texas, if you know who your coach is, and you know it for a while, there's never a good way to do it.
Right.
Number 2, nobody had any way of knowing that it was going to play out like that. Like when you make that decision back in April, it's probably in the best interest of your team that's still playing, which, by the way, Texas made the NCAA tournament, not to get out there and wreck your season, destroy yourself in the transfer portal, whatever might come with that. There's probably a lot of things I can't even think of. But there's once you know that's what you're going to do, there's no good way to get out of that. And that's human nature. That doesn't make anybody involved a bad guy if you've already made the choice to move on. You didn't know that A&M was going to be playing until the final pitch of Omaha. Now where that falls apart is when they made the announcement. I mean, you could have, Texas could have had a little bit of, if it even matters to Texas or anybody, a little bit of defense and saying, hey, at least we waited till A&M had finished playing. We made the announcement the next morning. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody could have been distracted and had feet in both worlds, but at least from a PR standpoint, that would have been different. That's why I'm a little surprised that they did it. They made the announcement when they did it. But I mean, you've got so many things. And here's the other thing too. You need to make a decision pretty quickly, and because the portal closes here in a few days. So that's another factor. I mean, the calendar of timing in college baseball, college sports in general, there's so many things messed up, but that's another one of the things that's just a factor in this too, is you got to get out there and get ready to move, because players are going to be moving, and everybody be ready. It better be ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, transfer portal closes July the 2nd. Now, it does change, obviously, when you have a head coaching change. That window extends a little bit. We've already seen that. Like Ohio State, they hired Campbell's coach, and everybody on the Campbell roster for baseball is in the transfer portal, like the whole team. So, yeah, that will definitely be one to watch. As far as transfer portal gets for Texas A&M, I found 3. They got a couple players from Penn Eli Trop is a right-handed pitcher. Burnt Orange Nation is already reporting that he's going to follow Schlossnagle to Texas. Wyatt Hensler, third baseman from Penn. He was the Ivy League Player of the Year, Ivy League single season home run record. Where does he end up now? Does he stick with Texas A&M? He was thinking about going to the draft. Like, does he continue to do that? Does he go somewhere else? And then they also got a first baseman from Fairfield, and he was a second team all conference selection. Hit almost 300 with 18 home runs this past season. So Texas A&M, they're going to have to move fast. I mean, it's a fantastic job. So I'll be fascinated to see who they get. I'm sure they'll get a lot of interest, but they're going to have to move quickly, as in like this week, quickly, because you said the transfer portal's right around the corner, and they're so good, they're so loaded. They gotta keep as much talent as they possibly can.
Yeah, Wyatt Hensler is going to be. He's one of the best bats in the portal. I mean, he's committed to Texas A&M right now, but you just never know how things are going to go. Next up for A&M, got to make a hire. I was surfing the internet a little bit this morning. I'm not sure what is based on information, what's speculative. I reached out to a guy that's pretty well connected in the baseball community at a pro level and at a college level, for that matter. He said he didn't know where they would go. Dan McDonnell at Louisville is a name that got mentioned. That one, it feels like he's kind of needed to get out of that situation for a couple of years. That would make a lot of sense. Really have a lot of respect for Dan McDonnell. He's already
turned South Carolina down.
What's that?
He already turned South Carolina down.
Okay, well,
but I mean,
yeah,
you never like. He makes over $1 million at Louisville. He and his family are very happy there, but as you said, the last couple of years have been very unlike, your typical Louisville season. So, I mean, he would definitely be high on my list. Texas A&M, they're all over the NIL portal, great facilities. They're getting the new ballpark, $80 million renovations to Bluebell. So I can see why he would be on the list for sure.
Yeah. I'm checking here, Lone Star Live, and I can't say I know a lot about them. They're 5 candidates that they mentioned. Nick Mingione at Kentucky. I'd be a little surprised in that one. He has made a big deal about the Kentucky job was the one he wanted. I think that's a great fit for him. Would presume he would get a raise. Rob Vaughn, who just came to Alabama from Maryland. I heard that one pop up for something else too. Baseball a little lower on the pecking order right now at Alabama. Although, it was a great hire, and Alabama's done well lately. Yeah. But let's face it, you've always got football, and now basketball has become a bit of a monster with the Final Four run. Skip Johnson was mentioned here. Dan Hefner, who is at Dallas Baptist, which has been a really good baseball school for a while. Max Weiner, who just left to go to Texas. He's a 29-year-old pitching coach. That seems – and he worked wonders with that staff. Of course, being a pitching coach and being a head coach are different things. But, that's pretty young to be a head coach in this league. So I don't know. Some other names, David Pierce, that would seem like the hire you probably don't want to make once Texas has fired its coach. That probably not the greatest PR move, but I think PR moves are kind of overrated anyway. Pierce did a good job. Went to Omaha, 3 times in 8 years. Kirk Sarloos, TCU. Tim Tadlock, Texas Tech. Those are some names. I really don't have any idea where they're going to go.
Me either. The one name you didn't say was Bakich, Clemson. So
yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. So it's going to be fascinating to see what they do. I doubt that they go within the SEC. You touched on Mingione, like he could be at Kentucky for however long he wants to be, and you got to think he's going to get a raise after taking the Wildcats to Omaha. So it's definitely going to be fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Canham, Oregon State is another one. Everything in the Pac-12 right now is well, the former Pac-12, Big Ten. I just don't know for baseball what that looks like for anybody. Bakich is one that I think would make a lot of sense, because I think that SEC is probably where you want to be. He's done fine at Clemson. He'd spent time at Clemson. I don't know how strong his ties are. His name is going to – I mean, his name popped up for Texas. I thought if Texas got past Schlossnagle or Vitello, that might be where they'd go.
Right.
So that's one. But here's another thing, though, Graham, the money. I know that there was a little bit of a – Schlossnagle was upset. I think they had to cut like a $50,000 staffer or something like that. That when you start making what in the grand scheme of things are penny pinching cuts, does make me wonder about ability to pay the next guy. Coaching salaries are starting to escalate quickly. It was only a matter of time as the game got more popular. So I wonder if, and I know that NIL salary, they all come from different pots of money, right? But like if you're still paying Jimbo Fisher a fortune, or he just did, that money's got to come from donors somewhere. That's less money to go to NIL or staffing or other things. I do wonder, of course, A&M has got so much money. I mean, A&M has got the highest endowment in the SEC, even bigger than Vanderbilt's by a factor of several, I think. And no, I know that you don't rate an endowment to pay a baseball coach or whatever. Endowments are different things, but it points to ability to raise funds. So there's some mixed signals there in terms of the finances of what A&M can do. Now, when push comes to shove, and you've just been to a national title series, I'm going to guess money wins out in the end when everybody's pushed to the brink. But that is something I'm watching.
Well, you mentioned the Jimbo. Everybody knows how much they paid him to go away, but also they brought in a brand new football staff, obviously, and then this $80 million renovation to the baseball stadium. I mean, that is a lot of money, and everybody knows A&M has the money, but this is real money. It's not monopoly money, and now you have to put together a baseball staff. So I guess if anybody can do it, it's definitely Texas A&M. And like after Texas just made this enormous splash, that A&M is going to try to make a big splash as well, because I mean they're in a great recruiting area. I mean, they got all the facilities and everything. So this is a very, very, very good job. I mean, definitely right now at this moment in time, I would say it's a top 5 in college baseball in the country.
Yeah, I'm looking at records. I'm trying to determine. I mean, look, you don't make a move unless you think you're getting an upgrade. But David Pierce's record at Texas was not bad, and I get that there was some off-field stuff that sort of factored in. But hey, Jim Schlossnagle, the way he handled that press conference Monday night, didn't make him look like the best of guys either. And maybe you can differentiate between some things. That's fine. I'm not going to get into that. But Pierce was 295 and 162 at Texas. Schlossnagle was 135 and 62 in his time there. So I think I haven't done the math. I think that'd be a higher winning percentage for Schlossnagle at A&M than Pierce had at Texas, for whatever it's worth. But yeah, I don't know that it's not like David Pierce was doing an awful job there in my estimation.
Not at all. And you remember when Texas made that hire for David Pierce, I don't think he was top 5 for them as far as like on the list. He was at Tulane. He took them to a couple of NCAA regionals. I think he was down their list. So Texas made that hire, and he did what he did there. And then this is just a polar opposite. Like they got their top choice, and they make a huge splash because Schlossnagle is one of the top coaches in the country, and he's been doing this at a high level for a long time.
I'm trying to remember who they targeted. I feel like Tim Corbin was probably on the list because every time there's a vacancy, his name comes up. And by the way, he's been mentioned at A&M. I mean, he's turned down
any job.
I don't know how many dozens of jobs for over 21, 22 years. I think it's unlikely, but I'll throw that one out there.
Yeah. Dan McDonald, I think he was a target. O'Sullivan, a target.
Yeah.
I mean, they went big game hunting and just got turned. I mean, they got turned down, and they ended with Pierce, and Pierce again, 3 trips to Omaha in 8 years is not bad at all.
How about if it was Kevin O'Sullivan after that incident of the yelling in the dugout? That would seem unlikely, but I
Yeah.
mean, I think people have kicked the tires on Kevin O'Sullivan over the years, and he, remain. It feels like he's going to be there till he's done. So,
And he goes to Omaha, feels like almost every year. So
as much as anybody, yeah, including a year where they weren't supposed to.
yeah.
It was back to Dan McDonald. Several Louisville guys have hit the portal. So I don't know what that's about, including I think they had an outfielder hit it yesterday. I don't know if there's my guess is just coincidental, but sometimes I kind of keep an eye on those things. So
What an eventful 6-7 month stretch for Texas A&M. Football coaching change, new head coach. They almost hired Stoops at Kentucky for football. Their athletic director leaves to go to Ohio State. They hired Trev Alvidge from Nebraska, and now they have a baseball coaching change as well. Just a wild last 6 months for Texas A&M.
yeah. Any parting thoughts on the wild events of this week?
Just I'm fascinated by this rivalry. We've always heard about it. Texas A&M. Now they're back in the same conference. Texas makes an enormous splash. So what is this rivalry going to look like moving forward? Again, you just don't really see things like this happen very often. Like, could you imagine if Alabama or Auburn did this? They poached the other one's head coach, or Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Like, you just I don't know if it's really hit SEC fans yet, because Texas is not officially in the SEC yet, but Texas goes big game hunting and they get their top choice, and it's against their in-state rival from right down the road.
And I've taken issue with the timing of the announcement, but look, when you get heated rivalries like this anyway, maybe it didn't matter. Maybe throwing on another log on the fire really didn't matter. It was always going to be hot. It's going to, my goodness, I bet the security detail at these games for the next few years is going to be
Big time.
increased. So that's something to watch too. But you've got, that is going to be a series to watch when these two teams play next year, one way or the other.
It is. And what's that press conference going to look like for Schlossnagle when he gets introduced in Austin? Like, how is that going to go down?
Yeah, do you think Richard Zane got an apology for Monday night? I'm guessing he did not, but that was such a bad look.
Schlossnagle, he had to know that question was coming, because it was all over social media and the internet. Rumors, him or Tony Vitello, who's it going to be? And I know it's just minutes after you lose a national championship game, but you got to know that question is going to come.
Yeah.
It was a very fair question, and he handled it the way that he did. In less than 15 hours later, he takes the Texas head coaching job. But again, if you go back and if you read or if you hear everything that Schlossnagle said, everything was in past tense. Everything. Which in my mind, that triggered to me like, okay, this is somebody that's already made up his mind and he's ready to move on. And that's obviously what he did.
I don't know that there's a great way to answer that, but you could say, hey, I'm the coach at Texas A&M. We just won a national title.
Right.
At least that way, I guess people can pick apart your language later, but nobody can say, hey, you were basically lying or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, it probably doesn't matter, because nobody's going to be happy anyway. But we'll be happy when these teams play again. I can't wait to see that one. We'll be here for it. So, all right. Well, thank you for watching and listening. He's Graham Doty. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, soon to be Southeastern 16, very soon, actually, presented by Bet Online.